Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to another episode of the Crispy Compact Communiqué, the virtual mobile version of the Crispy Noodle podcast that you know and love. I am Rich Liebig,
And I'm Mike Costanzo.
and unfortunately, with the holidays, sometimes having all those people together, sometimes there's a little bit of a cough that goes around, and before you know it, a little bit of a holiday havoc happens. So unfortunately, I know it's on. This is not usually. This is our last episode of the year. I've loved to have been in person to do it, but circumstances have dictated that we need to do this one virtually. So the good side though is we get to be relatively comfortable in our holiday break.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm kind of just chilling in just like a nice house shirt and sweatpants and just having a nice little fun go of this during this crispy compact communique. I'm enjoying my Coca-Cola.
Ooh, nice.
Mike, how you doing over there on your side in Winter
Oh,
Wonderland? It looks like.
I'm doing great. I'm in Winter Wonderland, but I also have an entire tray of chocolates next to
Oh
me.
my
So,
gosh, you're ready to go.
so if I'm distracted, it's probably because I'm eating candy.
Yeah,
So
you
that's the
you
vibe
are
over here.
you are ready to go with your chocolates. All right, so we're both caffeinated then between chocolate and Coca-Cola.
Oh, yes.
All right, very good. And that's good because we do have a lot of topics to get to in this short show. But before we do that, anything you want to mention about the holidays, Mike? How was your holidays? How I know we both do the seven fishes, so I assume check. We got our fishes off the list.
Yep, we got all the fishes. I mean, it was just nonstop food, like an assault of food. But also, a lot of great time spent with various groups of people. Got to see some friends, got to see some family. A lot of hosting, a lot of hanging out with the cousins, the aunts, the uncles. So it was just a really, really great time. And I just love being, I always take off from work, so I've been just lounging around trying to get some rest and relaxation in.
Yeah,
So yeah, uh it's been really nice
yeah,
so far. That's the best thing. It's just the lack of stress from work just makes the holidays that much better. So that's what I'm enjoying right now.
yeah. Definitely, I would highly recommend to save PTO time for the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand people that don't do it. Like to me, it's a no brainer.
Yeah, especially the way it fell this year. It was like a Monday, and then my company had Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off. So it's like you go in for what, 1 day, then you get 2 days off, then you go in for another two. I'm like, no, I'm just taking the whole week. And then it was the same thing for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just take 2 week, 2 week. It seems like a lot of time, but it's only like 5 or 6 days. I'm out of work for 2 weeks, but it's only like 5 days of PTO. So
Yeah, it sounds weirder than the NFL scheduling.
yes.
Yes.
They did some crazy stuff over the holidays.
Yeah. It was almost. I hate this. This is rare that I would say it. It almost seemed like it was like too much because you had
Yeah.
like the two games on Wednesday, then you still had the Thursday night game, and then three on Saturday. It was just all over the place. It was like it was a little too much. It was like I need a
Yeah.
break.
Well,
And the Monday
should
night
well,
game too.
well,
Like
if we're talking sports, should we do the first part of the show?
I guess, yeah. Let's officially
Yeah.
launch into sports sampler territory because we're talking football already right off the bat. So yeah, we are
But but
officially in sports sampler. Boom.
but let's continue talking about the scheduling. I mean, it's not on our official list of topics, but you had sent me a message about John Gruden of all people,
Yeah,
YouTube personality now.
he is. That's what
Um,
he is now. He's not going to get a
no,
job back in the NFL.
no team would take him. But yeah, he took issue with the amount of games being played and how he hates Thursday night games, and especially over the Christmas break. You're right; they forced those Christmas break those Christmas Day games in. Then you have Thursday, then you have Saturday, Sunday. It's like it was every day that week. You're right. I think it's too much, and I think it's detrimental to teams because you have a fast turnaround depending on when you're playing. And it's detrimental to fans too. because the schedule's all sort of out of whacks, right?
Yep.
And it's also detrimental to players as individuals because they have to take off Christmas,
Let,
you
let
know,
me let me
to
get the
go to work.
let me get the official quote in since we're
Yeah.
quoting. Where John Gruden went on. It was the Pardon My Take podcast on you, and yeah, he's a YouTube personality now. So this is what you do. You jump on other shows and other podcasts. And he was asked about scheduling, and this is what he said. Major League Baseball, they won't even let the pitchers pitch a full 9 innings. But in the NFL, you may have to play 61 snaps on Sunday and then turn around and play 68 snaps on Thursday. Not to mention, the NFL asked 4 teams to play 3 games in 11 days because of Christmas. Let me be clear, I hate Thursday night football. Everything about it, especially being the road team, traveling, possibly different time zones. Come on, man. The NFL needs to be honest and careful about this. End quote.
Yeah.
I love you. You got to have a good. Come on, man. That's a Gruden thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Come on, man.
But
So he's
he's
right.
right though. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm kind of glad that he's kind of been blacklisted from the NFL because he has now the platform and like the separation to call it like it is, and he's dead right on that. Here's what they need to do. And I think I texted it to you.
Mhm.
They need to go to whatever the expansion is. It'll probably be 18 games. Do 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
There needs to be a second bye week.
Oh yeah.
The,
I think that's absolutely essential.
and coordinate one of the bye weeks to every team's mandatory Thursday night game.
Yeah.
I think that solves all your problems because then you don't have the 4 day turnaround. That's just brutal,
Yeah.
especially like he says, if you're a road team, you lose another. So then it's a 3 day turnaround because you already lose a day to travel. It's
Yeah.
not fair.
I mean, anybody who's traveled just casually knows that the day that you travel, depending on where you're going, just completely shot, right? And then factor in on top of that, trying to get your body ready to go run full speed at 300-pound linemen. Yeah, like I can't even get up out of the seat in the airplane without grunting and groaning. I can't imagine these guys having to turn around in 12 hours and go fight people,
Yeah,
you know? So it's brutal. It's brutal.
yeah. So
If they're
yeah,
really concerned about player safety, that's what they would do.
right.
I mean
Like
that's what it comes down to.
yeah, I know, but it always seems like that's kind of a half statement. Like,
Yeah.
if it benefits the players, maybe. But at the end of the day, the NFL, I think we've said this multiple times, but ever since they did that 17th game, we're like, it's 18. It's gonna be
Oh yeah.
18. This
Oh yeah.
is whatever the current CBA. It's temporary. Whenever this
How
ends, it's gonna be 18.
how long ago was the 17 game thing? Because
Four
it was
seasons.
it's been a few years now. Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as they announced that, I remember we got on the podcast. We're like, the ultimate goal is 18 games because you can't have one conference not having, the same number of home games as the other. Those owners are missing out on a game of ticket sales and revenue.
Yeah.
So it's eventually that's what the NFL wants. It's just how they get there, not if, it's when and how.
Yeah.
And I think that if they're really looking to push to 18 games, you need to have a second bye week. You need to seriously consider how you logistically handle international games, how you handle weekday games like Monday and Thursday night. They need to really sit down and think all these things through carefully, or players are going to get hurt more often and you're going to put a worse product out on the field. So, yeah, it's about money, but in the long run, you might be hurting yourselves if you get your star players hurt by sending them to Germany and then turning around and playing a Thursday night game or something crazy like that. They got to be careful how they implement it.
It is ridiculous. They asked 4 NFL teams to do 3 games in 11 days.
Oh yeah,
I know
it's
the Chiefs
wild.
won them all, and good for them. You know,
Yeah, but they're performing some kind of black magic in
yeah.
the locker room.
It
I don't know what's going on with them.
the ends doesn't justify the means on that. Like
Yeah.
that's still unfair to ask of any team. That's just so much of a toll on the body. And if the Eagles were asked to do anything like that, we would be upset. Like
Oh, absolutely.
that's not fair.
Absolutely. But speaking of the Eagles, Rich, the
Yes.
Eagles did not have to play 3 games in 11 days, but we did have to figure out how to come back after a tough division loss to the Commanders, and boy, did we figure out how to come back, because the Eagles absolutely trounced our hated division rivals, the Dallas Cowboys, 41-7. In the 2 games against Dallas, the Eagles have outscored them 75-13. Let that sink in. Isn't that amazing? 75
Dallas
to 13.
sucks. Dallas sucks. Oh my gosh. I am so glad. It's kind of one of those things where like if the Eagles choke in the first round, I'm like, you know what? We crushed Dallas this
We
year
twice.
twice.
I forgot. I was going back through the schedule. I'm like, wow, yeah, we already manhandled them, and then we did it again
Yep.
at the end of the season. It's just an incredible feeling. And this time we did it without Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett stepping up with his injured ribs, taking a lot of big hits. I'm like, man, this dude's gonna die out there, but
How
he
about
stuck it out.
how about Tanner McKee?
Tanner
Third
McKee.
string
Yeah.
quarterback, never played an NFL down so far in his
Yeah.
career. Bam. I think he had 2 touchdowns. He threw one to Brown and Devonta Smith.
Yeah, I believe that he did. And it just really, yes, he did 2 touchdowns. Yeah, the 2 backup quarterbacks combined for 3 passing touchdowns, and a combined quarterback rating of 141. Just goes to show the overall talent of this team. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the biggest part of that, which is Saquon Barkley. We
Yeah.
really leaned on him. 31 carries, 167 yards. I mean, just absolutely amazing. The crowd was chanting MVP, MVP, Rich. Do we see a running back as MVP this year?
Probably not. It's just the way the cook.
No,
Yeah, it's just the way the cookie
really.
crumbles. It really is usually a quarterback. It's a quarterback driven league. I hate to say it. Look, I
Yeah,
would love
2,000 yards, one of only 9 players in NFL history.
I would love for Saquon to get it. Don't get me wrong. If he does it, I'll be ecstatic. But my expectation, it's probably going to go to Josh Allen. It's just the way the system is rigged. It really. When's the last
Yeah,
time there's been a non-quarterback win the MVP award?
no,
It's
I
been a
have no
while.
idea. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. Here's my biggest question. I know. I
I
know
know where you're
he's.
going to go with this.
I know he's 100 yards short of the record. But do you play him in week 17 against his former team?
Oh man, I think it's going to be tough to keep him off the field, but from the vibe that I was getting from listening to some of the players talk about it, they interviewed Lane Johnson at the locker, and he's like, "Well, Eric Dickerson's record was over 16 games, so it doesn't really matter anyway." It seems like they're content with just passing the 2,000-yard mark. Maybe they're just saying that for the media. Um, if I were Nick Sirianni, I'd put it in the hands of Saquon. Like, do you want to go out there and try and do it against your old team? I mean, like, it's a storybook ending, right? A chance to break the NFL all-time record, chance to do it against your old team, do it at home in front of the home field crowd. I mean, like, how do you not even offer him the chance? And then see whether or not he wants to risk his body for it. It's 100 yards. He's averaging what, like something stupid, like 130, 140 yards a game. It's very doable. He could hit that mark by the second half and then just pull him.
Uh,
What do you think?
I
It's
think
tough, I know.
I think the question is, do you want to win? Do you want to have the record, or do you want to win a Super Bowl?
Mm.
I I'm sorry. The Super Bowl should be the goal, and just knowing the freaking just luck of the Eagles, I'm telling you right now, if he plays, I can
Instantly injured.
I can see like do like a series, get him like loosed up so that he doesn't get any rust from breaking a week. I get that,
Mhm. Yeah.
but if you leave him in, you're just asking for trouble, especially against his former team. I
You think
hate
they're going to be like put a hit out on him or something
not
like that? I mean,
not not bounty. I wouldn't say anything bounty ish, but I would,
they'll just play tough.
yeah,
Yeah.
like if I was the Giants, I would just load the box up. I would like who cares? We're gonna lose this game, but I am not gonna succumb to
Just
Saquon
11,
Barkley.
11 guys in the box.
Why
Just leave
not?
the wide receivers uncovered. Just make
Sure.
sure your former player doesn't break the all-time record against you. I mean,
Yes.
that should, you know what? Send Saquon out for a series or two. See what the Giants are doing. If they're playing legitimately, maybe you leave him in a little bit longer. If they're just loading up the box and they are very expressly set out to stop Saquon and potentially even injure him, then you yank him out. I think you gotta give him at least the option. I think Nick Sirianni needs to ask, like, do you want to try for it? And then you can have a conversation about it. Um, but
I think you're asking for trouble, buddy. I'm
yeah,
knowing the luck of the Eagles. You do
the
not want to take any unnecessary risks,
the
especially where there's
reality
nothing to
is,
gain.
yeah, the
There's
reality is though they probably will sit the starters
if
because they
it's a
can't they can't move up in the seeding
right.
anymore.
It's a shame that they lost that game to Washington because
Yeah,
if they're sitting in the mix, all right, then it's all systems go. You might have a shot to have that break and automatically advance to the divisional round, which is huge. Like that is different. That's a tactical way to get to the Super Bowl. I would be in favor of that. But the bottom line is they're stuck at the 2 seed. They can't get the bye week. Uh, no, I can't justify stringing out Saquon, especially just it's gonna be on everyone's mind. Just they're don't get hurt, don't get hurt, don't get hurt.
yeah. I think if they keep his load light, like under 20 carries, you don't want to see him go 31 carries again. Like if you stay under 20 and he can get the record, maybe give it a shot. Give him a half. Give him a half to hit the record. If he doesn't hit the record in the half, you're done. You're out.
I don't know. My leash is like 10. I do not
10
want.
carries.
I
I mean, he could. All he's got to do is tear off a 70-yard run, then a couple of short ones. He's done it before.
He has, but I
How
just
about this? We split the difference. We say 15.
great.
We'll call up
Yeah, call up
Sirianni and
Sirianni. This is
Howie
our
Roseman.
this is our
15
grand
carries. That's the limit.
this is the grand compromise here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Here on the Crispy Compact Communique.
Hey, we figured it out.
All right. So that is what the Eagles should do next week. We'll see. It'll be interesting. I don't know. To me, it comes down to what is your ultimate goal. If your ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl, you gotta.
You seriously got to consider sitting some starters. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully Jalen Hurts is out of concussion protocol. He's still not out yet.
Well, here's the question: if he's out of concussion protocol, do you throw him in next week,
I think a
or do you just
series. Do like
a
a
series or
series.
two?
Just so you're backing up the game speed. I want it. Yeah. I don't want him cold because
Yeah,
then you get the Peyton Manning effect where
because then you're sitting 2 full weeks. You got it. It's like a preseason. Treat
three.
it like
Well, what he got injured last week.
partway
So
through.
all right, so it's
Yeah,
two. You're right.
2 full weeks he
Yeah.
would be out if he sits. So you got to treat like I think you treat it like a preseason game. You keep them in for like a quarter, maybe even a half, because you want them to stay at game speed. But I say you don't leave the starters in any longer than 2 quarters, like
Yeah.
at the very maximum. Like
Yeah.
if they want to play, if they want to go for the record, if they want to stay at game speed, let them go a half, and then you pull them all at halftime. I
All
know,
right.
I know, I know you're tempted on the play half thing, but I think a series might be too little, and I think obviously a full game is too long. So something in between, either the whole first quarter or the whole half, but no more than a half.
All right. Well, we'll see what the Eagles do next week, which is a great way to get into our Fantastic Four picks. This is it. The last Fantastic Four picks of the regular season. What games do you want to talk about, Mike?
All right. Well, first up, we have a last chance situation. The Cincinnati Bengals are desperately trying to make the playoffs. They're sitting there at 8-8. I think if they win, they still need some other things to break their way, but it's very possible they could. So this win against a division rival is absolutely essential. They're traveling to the Steelers, looking to snap a little bit of a slump that they've had near the end of their season. Rich, who do you like in this matchup? Bengals at Steelers.
Yeah, this is usually a heated matchup, but this is one of those situations that's just it's weird because I think the Steelers uh they've clinched a playoff spot, but they can't really do anything else. I think, and the Bengals, if they If they win, they need the Broncos to lose, and I think
I think
there's
it's
a
Miami.
yeah, Miami has to
I think I
lose
saw
too.
Miami in that conversation.
Yeah, so it's a weird situation.
Yeah. If it helps you make a decision, I did hear Mike Tomlin was quoted as saying they need to get the stench of loss off of them.
Ooh,
I think the Steelers are coming into this game thinking if they don't snap this losing streak with this game, it's going to continue into the playoffs. So I think they're coming and they're bringing everything week 18. Even if they don't have anything to play for, they have something to play for in keeping a division rival out,
yeah, that's a
snap
big motivation. You don't want to see them in the
snapping
postseason.
but snapping the losing streak as well. And I think that the last couple of weeks, the Steelers have really struggled. But before that, they were what, 10-3. They were one of the best teams in the league. I think that they have the potential to kind of rally the troops and turn things around here in week 18. Um, if they don't, they're going out in the first round
Yeah,
of the playoffs. Like it's a must win. It's weird because of the two teams you'd think it'd be the Bengals, but I think the must win is really for the Steelers.
yeah. I mean, I know we said earlier when we were first looking at the schedule that the Steelers back half of the season looked atrocious, and
Yeah.
it's finally come to fruition. Um,
This is a tough one.
yeah.
The spread's only what is that, 1.5?
I guess I'll go Steelers at home, but yeah, I would not put my money on anywhere near this. This could go
Yeah.
either way. And Joe Burrow, he's still been producing. I mean, there was a stat I sent you that like there's only been like 8 losses when a team scores 30 or more points. 4 of them have been the Cincinnati Bengals. Like the problem has not been Joe Burrow and
It
the
is
offense.
not. It is
They
not
have
Joe
been
Burrow.
they've been
No.
putting up points. The problem's been the defense.
I mean, you called out Josh Allen earlier, but Joe Burrow, 4,600 yards, 42 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. What more can an NFL quarterback do?
That's what
He's
happens when you don't have a good defense.
yeah, I mean, he's done it all. But despite that, I think we're both saying Steelers, but just by a hair. This could be a coin flip. But still a pivotal matchup there. Next up, we have an AFC playoff preview. These two teams could meet up at some point in the playoffs. The Kansas City Chiefs are traveling to Denver to face off against their rival, the Broncos. Rich, who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, again, another weird situation. The Broncos need to win and they're in, I believe. Yeah, they're winning in.
Chiefs
Um,
have locked up
and
everything,
the
so
Chiefs
there's
have locked.
nothing to play
Yeah,
for. But Reed hasn't said whether or not he's playing starters or not. Again,
yeah,
it's a situation similar to Sirianni. What do you think?
yeah. I mean, if I was the head coach, I wouldn't risk it. But also at the same time, this is a chance to keep the Broncos out of the playoffs because yeah, you don't want to see a division team in the playoffs. Just things can go haywire. Um, with that said, though, I would think Andy Reid will still want to rest his players. So as much as it pains me to say it, I think Sean Payton and the Broncos pick up a win at home and punch their ticket into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, we both remember all those years of Andy Reid here. He was, I don't want to say notorious, but close to it for sitting starters the last week, 2 weeks, sometimes 2.5 weeks. It's like, dude, what are you doing? They're barely playing the last month of the season. So he has been known to do that. I remember one year they went 13-1. It was 04. They went 13-1. They sat their starters the last 2 weeks.
But that was the Super Bowl run, wasn't it?
That was a Super Bowl run.
I
Yeah.
mean, that kind of paid off.
Well,
The
but the
worst
point I'm
was the worst was the Peyton Manning year. That
yeah,
was bad. They went
yeah,
13-0. They had a shot at being an undefeated season. And I think it was Tony Dungy. He rested everybody and they
yep,
went out in the first round. That's
yep.
bad. You got to be careful. The motivations matter.
Yeah, there's a balance between resting and not resting in. But the point here is that Andy Reid has a history of liking to sit his starters, not take too many risks. He's conservative in that regard. So I think he will sit the starters. I think the Broncos will pick up a win at home, a nice little moral victory against a division rival, even if they're playing backups. I'm leaning towards Broncos just for the fact that I think that Andy Reid is probably going to sit. If Andy Reid doesn't sit the starters, it's Kansas City. I'm assuming he's going to sit them, though.
Yeah, I would think so. You don't
Yeah,
want again. You just don't want to take a risk of of someone getting hurt. That's like the most useless way to get injured. Like,
especially since Kansas City only has Patrick Mahomes. It's not like they no, really, it's not like they have a lot of other talent. I still don't know how they went. What are they, 15-1 at this point? I don't understand how. They're not particularly good in any one regard. The defense is pretty stout, but
yeah,
yeah, I
defense and Andy Reid is just good at getting people open. That
yeah,
that that's been what I have
that's it.
learned from the last couple of seasons, watching dysfunction here in Philadelphia and watching
Mm,
really good teams. Good offensive minded coaches just know how to get someone open, and that's all you need
yep.
sometimes, just to break open. Either a 5 yard
You know,
gain,
you
nine
know what
yard gain.
helps is different routes for a start.
Yeah, someone should have
We're not
told that to the Eagles last year. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to get too much into that because we have the matchup of the week.
Oh, here
It
we
is a
go.
true fight for the first seed, a true battle for the division. It all comes down to the very last game of the season, the Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions. It is a Sunday night primetime game. Rich, very rarely does it all hinge on the final game of the year, but here we are. What do you think?
Yeah, this is really weird too because we're recording this on Monday. We don't even know what the Lions do on Monday Night Football yet.
Right.
Um, and yet the way this broke down, it doesn't even matter what the Lions do on Monday night. It's just the way the tiebreakers worked out and everything. It literally does come down to the last game of the regular season. Minnesota at Detroit. Winner gets the number one seed. The loser falls to the fifth seed because of this. Yeah, because of the wild card format.
Yeah,
That is rough. Um, but in this matchup, oh man, I
it's tough.
there's a
I don't
there's
know.
there's a part of me that wants to really say Minnesota. I really love this story with Minnesota. They are winning games left and right, and they are constantly flying under the radar. This team, you would have thought like you. I guess it's Sam Darnold. I don't know. I guess Sam Darnold's just not an energetic figure as much as like I guess Campbell is on Detroit's side of the ball. Like this team has just there's been no coverage of this team.
Yeah.
Like Rachel follows football to a degree because she loves fantasy football and she loves the Eagles. She's like, who are the Vikings? What is this team? Like it's
Yeah.
amazing. This team is neck and neck with the Chiefs, the Lions, the Eagles. They're up there. And there's been like just crickets with this team.
Yeah.
And they've embraced it. It's just been like something that they've and this is supposed to be a rebuilding year too. Like it's amazing just the cards have been stacked against them.
They're going to
And
be dangerous. Whatever happens, teams that fly under the radar can be very dangerous.
yeah, I kind of want to go Minnesota here. Here's another. So basically, another thing too in my mind is because of that, all of the pressure is on Detroit. Detroit was the one that made it to the championship last year. Everybody was expecting Detroit to take the next step up. Everyone's expecting the Detroit to make a case for themselves with Campbell being crazy and biting kneecaps and all that stuff. Minnesota is playing with house money as far as I'm concerned. This was supposed to be a rebuild year, and instead they're knocking on the door to get the number one seed. I kind of like Minnesota. Why not? Go for it. Sam Darnold, he's living his best life post Jets.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
he
Love it.
really is, and he deserves some kind of big payday after this season.
You betcha.
But man, this is such a tough matchup. The thing that gives me pause with Minnesota is just the Lions' ability to attack from any facet of the offense. Obviously the passing game is phenomenal. They also have quietly have a top 10 rushing attack too, and their defense statistically is pretty good as well. So it's
They
what?
lost their running back. The
Did they
the
lose their running back?
injuries, yeah, the injuries are piling up on Detroit. They lost
Jameer Gibbs isn't on any injury report, or is the other?
Montgomery.
Oh, Montgomery. Oh,
He's out.
yeah. All right, he is out. Well, oh
Although Jameer
man.
Gibbs is a quality, that is if you have to go to a backup running back, that's not a bad option. He was good with Washington.
I mean, Gibbs has over 1,200 rushing yards. It
Yeah, it's
says.
not a bad one to fall on, if you will.
Yeah. Um, Oh man, it's like splitting hairs with these two. I'm gonna go with the Lions just because I think that, as much as the Vikings are not getting any kind of national attention or media attention, I can guarantee you the Lions, they know that and they see that, and they're not going to let that get the better of them. I don't think they're going to let this team sneak up on them. We all think that the Vikings are going to sneak up on them, but I think Detroit has them squarely in their sights. Um, so against my better judgment, because there's something in the pit of my stomach that says that the Vikings are going to pull this off, but I'm still going to go with the Lions. They've been rock solid all year long on every side of the ball. So I'm still going to go the Lions, but there's a little voice in the back of my head
A
that's
little
like,
bit, a little bit,
yeah,
a little bit,
yeah,
a little bit. You got a little bit there.
a little bit. But there is a little bit more that we have to get to. We spent a lot of time talking about that, but very quickly, we do have to touch on our very own hometown Philadelphia Eagles. They are hosting the despicable New York Giants.
They
Just
won. They won last week.
okay, congratulations. Um, Rich, who do you like in this game? This is tough though because we may sit all of our starters. So
Giants.
Giants,
Go Giants.
go Giants.
They win. Go ahead. Win another meaningless game for player morale or whatever the hell Drew Lock
Yeah,
said after the game. You are hurting the future of your team, and that's great for us. So go ahead. Yeah, win this meaningless game and fall down to a ninth or 10th pick instead of the overall number one pick, which you could have had if you just tanked out the rest of the season. So no, it's gonna be Giants. Go Giants.
yeah. I've never understood the whole I don't know moral victory thing. I get it in one regard, but when you're 3-13, there's no such thing as a moral victory is like if you're finishing the
Two and
season like
13. This team was 2-13
two
last
and
week.
13. Yeah, and then they went and won. Moral victory doesn't mean anything when you're that far below 500. If you're like hovering around 500 and you win your last game to finish 500 or just above it, that's a moral victory. That's
Yeah.
something you can build on. If you finish the season 4-13, that's not a moral victory. That's just cheating yourself out of top 5 draft spot. You're absolutely right. And for those reasons, I hope that they win because it does weirdly benefit the Eagles. I also think that there's a possibility because we might be starting at least a portion of our starters, hopefully a lot of them.
Resting a portion of
Um,
your starters.
yeah, what did I say?
She's
Starting a
starting
portion?
a portion of the starters.
That still works because if they're resting a portion, that means they're also starting a portion.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Ah, see, no, but yes, they will be resting at least some starters. So, um, yeah, I mean, probably Giants, but that's because we're probably looking forward to the wild card round, and we're not even focusing. This is the one time you can fall for the trap. Fall for the trap of the trap game because it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That is our fantastic four picks for the final week of the regular season. And with that, that will end the sports sampler. We're going to go off and take a break, but coming up next, we'll have the entertainment entree and the non fortune cookie odd news when we return to the Crispy Compact Communiqué on the next podcast video, however you're watching this. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.